Hi everybody, I'm Andy Wike, and I'm here today for another episode of All Pipes Considered, joined by my good friend Mr. Kaz Walters from Novelties Distribution Group. So, as you guys know, me and Kaz typically do a lot of videos about Savinelli, any sort of new releases. Every year we do the whole Novelties shebang. I always really enjoy those, and so we're back at it again to talk about one of Savinelli's most anticipated limited edition releases every year, and that is, drumroll, St. Nicolas 2024. So it's the summertime, and that's always sort of met with confusion. Like, why is there a Christmas pipe or a holiday pipe coming out in the summertime? Yeah. And I don't ever really have a great answer for that, other than like, you want shops to have these.
Yeah, it's a practical one. If it was released in mid-November, early December, that's just not enough time for people. Ideally, people have their Christmas presents purchased by then, or if they're a collector. So you want there to be time for people to pick out dad's pipe for Christmas, or their husbands, or their partners, or if you're a collector, some shapes move faster than others. Some shapes are produced in more limited quantity, so it gives everybody a fairer shot. You want it on the market sooner. It's although I think stores and stuff with like Christmas decorations and Christmas trees and stuff are about to be releasing their stuff just as early as Savinelli releases their novelties. It feels like Christmas gets closer and closer.
Yeah, it's true. Like, we're just skipping Thanksgiving and Halloween, just going straight to Christmas. It's like Easter and then Christmas. Let's go. So this is the 12th edition of this series. So Savinelli's been doing this every year for quite some time now, and while the shapes are always sort of standard production, the sort of iconic shape chart models, every year what they do is they basically tweak the color palette. And so last year, 2023's model, Kaz, if you remember, was a very wintry sort of aesthetic.
Yes, blue, white, silver, which was a departure from previous years.
Yes.
Most previous years were some combination of either green and white, red and green, more what you would just assume are just your standard Christmas colors. And there was not just a tweaking of what colors and where they were as far as band or stem, but there was playing with the type of material. Sometimes it'd be a solid opaque acrylic, and sometimes it would be more of a shimmery, like lucite style acrylic.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of, for them to have produced it for so many years and have largely been like self-limiting to that color palette, there was a lot of variety.
That's true.
But it's interesting to see the last 2 years a major departure from those palettes, but still having this clearly Christmas aesthetic.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think that's just, in general, I feel like Savinelli is playing with a bit more modern color palettes these days. So I think we're seeing them take a little bit more risk and kind of push the boundaries of what they've historically done, and I think to a lot of really great effect. I mean, you look at the Novelties and the whole Commedia dell'arte series, and like how really cool those stems are, those proprietary stems and accent materials and everything else. So you really see them sort of just experimenting and playing and iterating and
novel approaches to novelties.
Yeah, approaches to novelties. That's right. So for this year specifically, as Kaz mentioned, it's really more of a warmer aesthetic. So when I look at these, I sort of think of campfire and or not campfire necessarily,
like a hearth.
Like a hearth. So like there's a roaring fire and stockings are by the mantle, and
whereas last year was more wintry, winter wonderland sort of thing.
Yes,
this is more like cozy, like chestnuts on a roaring fire sort of thing.
That's a great way. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Chestnuts are that's my favorite holiday song, by the way. Yeah, one day you guys will get me to sing it. But on these pipes specifically, so like last year, there's 15 shapes available, sort of running the gamut of Savinelli's sort of most iconic pieces. We have the 311 KS, the 320 KS, 315 the Prince, So a lot of these really iconic models, all, rendered in this really warm, traditional color palette. The accents themselves, we're looking at, sort of twin rings of brass, sandwiched between a very nice sort of traditional red acrylic accent. And then the stems this year, I think, are particularly interesting. So these are unique to the line. So they're proprietary, custom cast for this year's edition. They have an amber look to them.
Yes.
So it's very reminiscent of sort of older.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a shimmery aspect that one sees in like old lucite and such. And
that's true.
I mean, this is in keeping not only with Savinelli's approach to St. Nicolas, but really most of their acrylics, almost all of them are proprietary. That's kind of their thing. Like no other factory is producing pipes with this type of material.
Right.
And this, you're right, it has a very amber color. It's very warm, and it is a vintage callback, especially with that burgundy deep red stain. You've got a nice texture from the rustication, but the stem material is translucent. You can kind of see through it without it being transparent, and then with just the echoing, undulating like patterns from the light play, it's definitely reminiscent of vintage amber, which I think a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, like Christmas has a vintage nostalgic quality to it beyond just the family dynamic. Like, I see it all the time, and with pipe smokers, like in shops, or whether it's on their social media. But around Christmas time, everybody's posting one of these really old advertisements or old illustrations from Twas the Night Before Christmas, and Santa always has a pipe.
That's true.
And I think it, in a lot of ways, in people's minds, they're kind of linked, because you have that, but you also have Frosty the Snowman. Like the corncob pipe is like part of the identifying song.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to have a vintage aesthetic, whereas previous iterations have been modern, which is Savinelli's take on their execution, their aesthetic. But this manages to balance both of those things somehow, being this vintage callback with the palette, but nobody has done this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a novel approach to a holiday pipe, and I think what you said about striking that balance between nostalgic callbacks and sort of modern execution, I think is really where this year's series excels. Like there is a vintage look about them, but then with the sort of twin brass rings and the red acrylic, and then just the actual like uniform low profile rustication that Savinelli's so good at, it all really works together, I think. Also, just color palette wise, like that deep red stain, I think is really nice, particularly with the sort of traditional red accent and then the shimmery yellow acrylic stem as well. So just really nice composition this year. I'm really looking forward to see how these do. I'll probably pick one up myself. Do you have a favorite Savinelli shape that you might be looking for this year's?
For this year, it's probably, and these of course aren't all the shapes, it's probably going to be the 904.
Okay.
If I'm looking for something that's usually in my taste as far as shaping, but also like going back to the vintage, what it alludes to, I kind of want to do just one that has this most like identifiable iconic profile, and so I'm looking at the 606 KS.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong with that, that's for sure. Very cool. Well, you guys check these out. They'll be available, again, 15 different shapes, really nice deep red stain, low profile rustication, and a brand new stem for this year's edition. So Kaz, thank you so much for joining me.
It's always a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time for something else that Savinelli might be doing. So thanks so much.
Thanks.